I don't come from an investment background. And this is what I want women in particular, but also others to understand and acknowledge that it's not necessary always to come from a certain background. It is a skill set with the support of a right network and community that you can build and you can work on.
Welcome to Taking Care of Lady Business, where we have conversations about power, value, and success on your own terms. I'm talking with women who are building influence, wealth, and authority, not by following someone else's playbook, but by deciding what success looks like for themselves. These are candid conversations, hard-earned perspectives, and no BS insight from women who aren't asking permission. They're setting the standard. I'm your host, Jennifer Justice. Most people call me JJ. Let's get into it. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Taking Care of Lady Business. I'm Jennifer Justice. Today, we have Kari Chaudhry. She is the CEO and founder. Is that right? Founder? Yeah. Of Apex Global Forum, which we're about to find out what it is. Hi, Kari. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you, Jennifer. It's been such a pleasure to be on here finally.
Yeah, I know, right? I know we've been trying. There's illnesses, holidays, all of those things. So it's been a minute, but I'm glad we have you because this is going to be an amazing conversation, in particular about fundraising, building wealth for women, just all of the above. So I'm excited. So let's get into it. First of all, by talking about Apex Global Forum and what it is.
Businesses, it goes through different iterations. We're probably in a 3.0 iteration, and I think it's the one to stay. And, that's the beauty of being agile and nimble. It's a group of private network, membership network of individuals that are family principals, family business owners, are wealth creators, and value conversations that center around intergenerational succession, wealth creation, and businesses. It's how do we assimilate the next gen? And all of our conversations are centered around wealth, how we preserve it, and how we build it.
And is that like akin to a family office for somebody who's kind of just hearing these terms? What would you call that?
So, not akin to a family office, because I feel like family office in itself is so misconstrued now. It's become like this really pretentious circle. But if you still look at a lot of wealthy families, they don't have family offices still. What we have become is an extension of what they already have to co-invest with and to share knowledge, due diligence, and share deal flow with. And why people prefer us, why our members prefer us, is because we're vetted from end to end. We only accept deals from our members. So we've already vetted it out. And those members who actually present those deals have skin in the game. So there's another layer of vetting them. And in the end, we only go to our members because those are the only people we want to co-invest with because we've already vetted those people out. It's not to say that we're open to everybody because there are trusted partners that we work with, yourself included. I'm happy to look at deals from our partners. But at the end of the day, it very much is where we are exchanging knowledge sharing and deal flow with a trusted community of like-minded people.
Tell us more about your background, how you got into this and like what your family does, et cetera.
My parents and our family had zero exposure into alternative investments, asset classes. And that's where it all began because the more people I spoke with, the more I got, actually, we don't have any investment either. You've got the traditional public markets, you've got real estate, but even real estate, they have to be income generating. They can be passion projects like, oh, I want to go invest in a restaurant. My friend's opening this restaurant, let me go invest a little bit in that. And it wasn't anything like that. So the private markets were almost off the table. And I wanted us to get a little bit more exposure in that. Accidentally, we were retail and luxury, Europe's first retail and luxury accelerator in all of Europe, which got me exposure into the venture space to begin with. And that's where the whole quote unquote love journey, I guess, began. That's where, my first exposure into venture was. into private markets actually was. It got me investing in a few things. Further down the line, I realized such terrible mistakes I'd made as a first time investor, investing in early stage, especially in retail and luxury. And that's when I started to think on how actually having a community that have gone through this have similar values. We weren't occasional angel investors. Like this was going to be a proper activity for us, was to invest in these alternative asset classes. And so from that perspective, I just met so many other family principals, next gens of families, kind of in a similar boat where they were very much struggling to assimilate in the family office or their investment thesis that the family had because they wanted to carve their own path. They wanted to still be working into, doing their own thing, and they wanted to make their own investment choices. But a lot of them, like me, just didn't have the skill set to do it.
So basically, you have put together a large group of high net worth individuals that are next generation in families who have very successful, at least multi millions up to unlimited value and net worth.
You just said net worth. So the average net worth of an Apex member is around, it used to be 40, but now I think it's closer to 60.
Or $60 million, and you
Correct.
want to take your collective experience and use that to invest in the right companies. Did I say that right?
Yeah, pretty much precisely that. We want to get more exposure into private markets and we're relying on each other for skill set and expertise. Like I love CPG, I love health, anything retail, luxury, some verticals of tech. But if something around space comes or biomed comes or med tech comes, I want to be able to go to a member and be like, hey, like this is a deal that we're exploring that a bunch of us are, can you help us guide? This is a due diligence that one family did, or have a look at and see, like, what are your thoughts? What are your expertise saying? And kind of signaling which direction we should go in. So that is kind of like the knowledge sharing aspect of it, and relying on senior principals who've exited in those sectors, exited their businesses. How do we get there? How do we make our money? We're in a generation, typically right now, with the whole creation of wealth is concerned, we're typically around the third generation right now. And the first generation who created the wealth, the second one who was more or less preserving the wealth, the third, if we haven't squandered all of our wealth away by now, wants to go out there and explore what they can be doing. It's no longer an obligation or a duty. They find that they must go back and follow the roots of the previous generation.
So you came up with this whole idea.
I mean, like I said, it's iteration 3.0. Iteration 2.0 was doing a lot of pitch events, was working with a lot of founders, only to realize we're not making money like this.
Right. And so what are your typical like investment sizes and, minimums and things like that? Do you have those or does it
Not
vary?
varies actually, not so much minimums. If there is enough interest, we'll pull together and go in together as one entity on the cap table. If there isn't, I facilitate a lot of introductions and people can just go directly.
Right.
And that's when I step away from it. But just because, like setting up an SPV and things, it makes no sense if there isn't enough interest in that.
No, of course. Yeah. I mean, we talk a lot on this podcast with venture capitalists and private equity, but, a lot of those definitely, VC with female founded companies, a lot of those wells have run dry or they're just not there, or everybody's focused on women's health, but not other areas, or just CPG and not other areas. And so are you guys limited at all in any kind of
Agnostic
investment? Yeah, you're agnostic, right?
We're post revenue, post product.
Okay, post revenue, post product. Okay, so that is a big identifier too, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even if somebody has this insane tech idea that you couldn't even do if you did not raise $1, right? You guys would not do that.
Unless I really, really love it and I want to support the founder, I will make personal introductions, but that's the extent of it. Like I would not put it out in front of the rest of the group.
So how many members are you guys at Apex?
I'm scaling back a lot, but even then we're over 500.
These are all next gen?
No, it's a mix of senior family principals as well. Not all next gens. There's a big cohort of next gens here because we support them a lot. A lot of the times where you would look into investing in something, you need memos done, you need certain parts, aspects of due diligence done. A lot of our next gen members actually come up to assist us in that because what they're also looking at doing is assimilating within their own family practices at some point.
So you and I have been talking about this for a while, and I mean, because I think it's such an interesting model, right? And it gets a lot of people with money that most people wouldn't have access to, some exposure to.
Vetted deal flows and the whole family office, family principal space is very elusive.
Yeah, well, it's also hard to find. It's like there's so many different families. Like, how are you going to get to all of them? And then
Yeah.
once you do, how do you know what their thesis is, right?
Mhm.
It's not as easy as a VC where you can actually look it up or see what kind of
Correct.
deals they invested in, pitch book, et cetera. Like,
Yep.
it's not the same. So to put it all together. But you and I were talking about this, and obviously, as a woman in a family, why are you the woman in the family that is doing this? Like,
Oh, it's taken me a while. Apex has been running now since 2019, and it's just been 2 years since I've been given the reins, as I should say, to invest freely in alternative assets now.
why is that?
All the typical answers you can think of.
Right, right.
On top of that, I mean, like at the end of the day, it's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And I don't come from an investment background. And this is what I want women in particular, but also others to understand and acknowledge that it's not necessary always to come from a certain background. It is a skill set with the support of a right network and community that you can build and you can work on. And that's exactly what I've done. And, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, if my life depended on it, I could not talk to you about valuations, how to value a company, what should be our investment, where should it go, things like that. Could not, but made some really stupid choices. When we talk about women, especially creating wealth, I don't want them to think that this is a deterrent. I think, if anything, it's an opportunity for them to learn and surround themselves with the right people.
So how did you go about it? What did you do to like turn yourself around so you could be like, I can actually do this?
I surrounded myself with the right Apex members. I leaned on them to say, how can I professionalize the whole investment aspect within Apex and then be very disciplined about it?
I know, because it's hard because you fall in love with something and you're like, well, I love
Yeah.
her and it sounds so great and I need that, right? It's
Yeah,
those
no,
kinds of things.
like it has to. And then, have a few guardrails. For me, those guardrails are certain family principles and wealth creators, wealth preservers, whatever you want to call them. And, if something like this comes along, I run it past them. So we've got like a quasi investment committee that we run past deals. And that's exactly what I mean. Like, you need that. If I didn't have this, I would have gained this experience by working somewhere. And I've been blessed, privileged, whatever you want to call it, but also worked my ass off to build this so I could be surrounded with these people. And at the end of the day, they're not doing this from the goodness of their heart. Many are. But at the end of the day, they get vetted deal flow. Oftentimes, we get really good preferential terms because we are such a small select group. And unlike institutional investors, every one of us who decides to come in on something is a strategic investor because we've got actual operating skills. We're also a huge value add. And I think this is also something that I wish founders would look into more. I think it's a really good segue into saying that founders really should be interviewing investors versus the other way around. And listen, it's a tough market anyway. So if it's going to take you 3 months versus four, take those 4 months and have a proper fundraising strategy and know who you want to go with and who your investor is. So many times I see founders just take money that it comes from anywhere. And oftentimes they're not the right strategic people. And at the end of the day, yes, it is money, but you want it to be money that works for you.
I mean, I've interviewed many women on this podcast who have raised money and then were kicked out because
Yep.
the VCs did not understand them, didn't like them. It was all men.
And another thing with VCs is also like they give you the money and oftentimes there's no check-ins, there's no support, there's nothing like that. And oftentimes it's not until you're failing or at the end of the rope where they're like, well, the numbers are not adding up. What are you going to do about it? And even then, it's not the right support because oftentimes VCs, it depends who you come from. And I don't have any issues with VCs. I just feel like institutional venture money should come in at a certain stage, and it should not be, I wouldn't say until seed plus. But that's just a personal opinion. And family office, private money versus venture money, there's a lot of different strings attached to it, and there's a lot of benefits, different benefits that come with it. That would be my kind of 2 cents: is take the time out, meet people, not necessarily even family offices. Actually, a lot of wealthy individuals don't have family offices. So they're not going to be published anywhere. So I think it's just a matter of finding the right people, putting yourself out there. But I do think VC money is not the be all end all initially.
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. And if you can get somebody who's actually experienced that has a network for you
Yep.
to succeed, that's even bigger. And so you guys are global, right?
We are global, and we concentrate a lot on like wealth capitals of the world. So we were just in Miami last week. We're going to be in New York this spring. Summer is going to be in a very exciting location, which I can't say yet, but just watch this space. And fall and winter, we're going to be in Europe and Middle East.
When you mean like you're going to be in, like what do you do there? You host?
Organize 2 to 3 day forums.
And then what do the forums do? What do they talk about? What's the goal of them?
Talk about investments. We talk about deal flow and how we can co-invest. A lot of the times our members are talking about their own deals that they're involved with, or their own businesses that might do something. And I'm just trying to think, in Miami, each forum has a theme. So last year, our theme, the overarching theme, was impact and legacy. For Miami, given what Miami is, it was about new creation of wealth. When you look at Miami with athletes, with entertainers, with how Francis Suarez has put Miami on a global map, where all the major investors from Middle East are now coming to Florida, not anywhere else in the US. The amount of cash inflow, just their innovation tech hub that it has become. And because of those reasons, we invited Francis Suarez to open up our forum. He was just phenomenal to talk about why Miami, why wealth in Miami. I love the way he thinks because he's a true capitalist. And he approached building Miami and what it is today as a businessman as opposed to a traditional politician.
What do you mean by true capitalist?
He was very business centric. He built it at scale. It wasn't like a one-off thing. It's like, okay, well, let's do one. His politics aside, all of that aside, he built it at scale and he built it for longevity. It wasn't like a one-off thing. Okay, well, let's build one thing. Like everything had a plan. And even those ripple effects are still paying off today. And in that sense, I feel like a politician wouldn't have done it that justice that he has.
Talk about who he is a little bit for people who don't know.
He's the mayor, former mayor. He was for 8 years of the city of Miami, for Miami-Dade County. When we have the recording, I'm going to share that with you. It was the most incredible interview because he himself says he's a capitalist. And my question to him is that he built this as a businessman and not a true politician. And I think that's why people resonate with it so much. They're like, we came here for the taxes, but if the taxes were to be increased, we're not leaving.
Right. What is the theme for New York? Do you know yet?
TBC. We've just finished Miami last week. And New York, I think it's going to be focused a lot around new sectors that are coming up. You heard it here first. One of the biggest things that I really am like pro about and really want to learn more about and talk about in a forum, like an intimate forum like we do, is the perfect spot to do it, is quantum.
Yes, I know. We hear it all the time now. It's like everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I just said it, it's going to show up all over my feeds.
Exactly.
I already get the quantum energy, quantum, and I like all of that.
We've had space, we've had AI, and now I feel like AI is no longer a vertical; it's kind of a horizontal. Everything we talk about, AI is through that, just like tech was, right? Like investing in something right now, especially if you need proper IP in something, there has to have a tech element to it.
Yeah, of course. There's got to be AI in every company, and you can't call it it shouldn't be a .ai or I have an AI. It's just like should be part of your everyday business, right? You're right.
Yeah.
It's like vertical. So when you do these forums, like who can go to it? I mean, do founders go, or is it just for internal purposes? What is it?
It's our members and it's our prospective members. And we do have some founders, but they're near exit.
Okay. And so you help them and you talk to them about all the different kinds of phases. But like internally, you guys are talking about what's exciting to you and where.
Well, exciting to us on a global scale. There could be one operator who's still operational, could have certain companies they want to launch in the Middle East. Like there's always someone at any one of these locations traveling from various parts of the world. Plus, our last event every year, our last forum is in the Middle East. It's in Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And we've been doing that now 3 years running. And so for us, it's very important to also not forget that the capital flow between these two regions now is really powerful. The amount of exposure that the Middle Eastern investors are looking at into the US market, and vice versa. The amount of operators or businesses wanting to launch and have distribution channels in the Middle East, but also some of the fund managers and the GPs are looking to Middle Eastern money for raising capital. So it's kind of like a two-way stream. We'd be remiss if we wouldn't actually be that bridge.
So when you are that bridge, there are a lot of women and female founders who don't want to take certain money. How do we have these conversations?
I mean, they're more than welcome to not. But at the end of the day, I think if you know where the money is coming from, if it is coming from a trusted source, there are proper channels you can take that money from. But yes, there is sensitivity around certain regions where the capital comes from. I think it's down to the founder. I mean, we operate on a global scale. So we've got certain infrastructure systems put into place on how to accept and where and what our requirements are. Like, where did the money come from? Who referred us to that person? Those are very important.
It's like you come to a crossroads, and as women, it's like it's so hard to get money. And
Yeah.
then on top of it, if you have these requirements on top of it that can be preventative, sometimes, you know, you go, okay, I'm going to take the money, make it as big as I possibly can. But again, back to what you were saying, make sure you know where the money is coming from so you can still, you know, run your business, stay in your business,
Yeah.
you know, get strategy, people who can help you run it, you know.
Correct. That's why having a good support system, I don't mean emotionally, I mean a good support system who can help you with compliance, AML, vetting people out, have those connections at banks, at various wealth managers, make sure that you know where that source of capital is. And my litmus test would be if you have to figure out where that source of capital is, likely that investor is not even for you. Like before you even get to that stage, if you don't know where the money is coming from, you don't know them well enough. And at that early stage, do you really want them to be a part of your company?
Yeah. I want to switch gears a bit because you and I had a very interesting conversation early on about who should be running the family money,
True.
if you want to call it an office, whatever. We already like hit on the fact that you as the woman, right, and in a family, it took a while, you know, and convincing that the woman should be it. But you said something very interesting about certain aptitude tests.
Let me just clarify something. I only run our money in the alternative assets, right? Everything else are with managers. So that's not fully within our remit either. So there are a few of our members, mostly in the Middle East, Asia, where family offices are not predominantly classified and run as family offices. They're beginning to now, but family office is a very established institutional form in the Western Hemisphere. And when we talk about, a family, let's just talk about a family. Who should get the business? Who should be managing the money? Who should be running the day-to-day ops? It's oftentimes where a family principal, and again, this is very, very culturally nuanced, I want to say, where they're like, okay, well, it should go to the male heir, but the female heir is probably more likely better suited. And the family principals, whether it's a matriarch or patriarch, know this. And so we were talking, and I don't know how this came up, but at one point I was like, well, it's been rumored, we don't know for sure, but Djokovic, Federer, all have done these aptitude tests, genetic tests to see where their skill set or where they're positioned to succeed in. And it's like, we should start doing that with heirs of families where there is this kind of conflict. Or just look at data. Who's better at managing money? Who's better at running things? So if you feel like your daughter will do it, then why be bogged down with customs and traditions, and give the male heir what he is suited more for. But if someone, if your daughter or another family member who is a female family member is more suited to run your money, just the money and day to day and running of the family, then I think it should go to someone who is much more better suited. And, whether it's backed by science data, whether that is backed by just your relationship with that family member, or whether it's to do with these testing and diagnostics. I mean, there's so much out there right now that you could do, you could kind of fall back on.
Do you find that that is becoming a trend? And
I would like for it to be.
yeah,
I mean, it's science and data backed and not like
yeah.
archaic traditions just because, it's been going on for generations. It must continue,
Look, we all saw Succession. We all know who should have been running that whole thing, right?
right? But the thing is, when you watch something like that, I mean, that is a massive public family. They're in the public eye, they have board seats, they're publicly traded. The whole ball game's different.
You might not even know that they have a lot of money.
Correct.
They might be driving around a Subaru like Warren Buffett. You know what I mean? Like,
No,
true.
I think he's an anomaly.
There are a lot of families that like do
Correct.
not show it.
A lot of Middle Easterns, you wouldn't know it. It's not tradition if it's not continued, but maybe it's time to change those traditions. Like I said, anytime there's science and data to back something up, why wouldn't you not rely on it?
Do you find that you're still one of the only women in the room, so when you're in this?
No. At Apex, we're pretty much 50-50, but a good number of women are the ones that are, I wouldn't say as a whole leading the family office, but definitely like private markets. A lot of us are the decision makers right now.
I mean, our whole goal is, we have some equity here. We're not trying to like get rid of men. We're trying to like show that we are just as deserving as women in business and in wealth creation and in capitalism, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, there's one of our members who's got a son and a daughter, and he's like, yeah, my son's good, but he's like, my daughter is just freaking amazing. And she's going to take the business to the next level. And he's like, you know what? If he steps up, he can do it. But if she's the one who continues the way she is, she's going to get it. And I was like, you know what? It should be more merit based than gender based.
Yes. I know some wealthy families who are like, oh, the women, they just get all the houses in real estate because they're going to get married and they're not going to run the business. Yeah.
And that's another thing, actually. Marriage thing comes apart. Oh, she's going to marry someone out of the family. She's not going to be part of the family anymore because she's going to have a different thing. And I was like, well, what's the guy going to do? Like, even he's going to bring someone else in. And, it's one of those things where preparing yourself from these life events is also very, very important. Marriage, divorce, birth, death, all of these life events are so, so, so important to protect yourself. And, this has become, without going into my personal experience, but having gone through one of these events myself too, actually, it's been really important and an eye opener, because for women, it gives us agency, gives us choices and the freedom to make choices. So the one thing I tell these women is, no matter what you do with your family, great, make sure you also have a different track, a separate track for yourself.
Yeah. Having your own agency and the ability to make your own choices
Correct.
is paramount
Paramount.
to our success as a gender in particular.
Not that I didn't realize it. I didn't realize the magnitude and the importance of it until I was in the middle of that. But luckily, I also had my family support. So I was able to take certain decisions somewhat fearlessly. But to other women, I would say that if you're not in that position, just do whatever it is that you need to do to make sure you're in a position where the time comes, you make those choices for yourself. It's the biggest gift you can give to yourself.
Yeah, no, for sure. 100% agree. You might not be able to name some of the companies, but can you give an example so people understand like what you're investing in, like the breadth of it?
Yeah, I'm actually super proud of this particular one because we just signed it last week. And it was everyone knows this, it's a darling of a lot of people right now, is Path Water. I love Path because I love the person, our member who brought us Path, and two people, actually, two of my favorites now. And I must give shout out to Lori Katz, who brought this to us. Side note, you need to bring her on this podcast. She will.
Okay.
She will.
You heard it first. I'm having Lori Katz on the podcast.
And so she brought Jesse Cole, who is an absolute darling. Anywhere you go, you see Path. The relationships that they've built with enterprise B2B clients is just incredible. And we just got in just before them announcing their Series B. I think it's going to be a phenomenal ride.
What other kinds of companies?
I mean, my personal favorites are CPG,
Yeah.
anything in CPG and health, like across the board, anything health. But I'm quite keen now on looking at some of the quantum stuff that's coming by my desk. We're looking to really up our knowledge on quantum. Actually, this is why it's like a real interest for me, because space is great. We've missed a couple of really great opportunities, but missed them on both on the secondary side for SpaceX. And now I think it's just a little too beyond the valuation that we want to come in at. Unless we're not part of a bigger syndicate, I think we've lost a chance.
And nothing is really like too small, right? They just have to be out there.
And listen, like at the end of the day, I think founders, and this is what I do want to tell founders, stop taking small checks. And if that's the only way you can do it, not unilaterally stop taking small checks, if you can, what I would do is create an SPV and get those small checks to go in there. Have that one person you trust who you could be like, okay, well, can you be the first one in? Because this way, I think you could really empower a lot of people, especially women who don't understand the game a lot, but can come in with 15,000, 10,000, anything so they can learn and get the foot in the door. And I think this is what I love doing. And this is what, when I was saying Apex 2.0 iteration, we were working a lot with founders and things like that, right? And I was like, well, if there's enough interest, I can set the SPV up. It's no different than what I do with Apex, but the raise has to be large enough that it makes sense.
Yeah. It's a lot of work.
Yeah. And the costs. So it has to make worthwhile sense for you to do it, but do it. And that person who has a lot of operating experience may not have liquid cash, but they have experience which cannot translate into dollars that you require now, but what they will bring, and if they can only give you 5 or 10,000, they will give you a lot more value in exchange for it. But they have come in some meaningful way and have some vested interest now in your company. But yeah, I would say that like if you can put some dollars aside and set up an SPV where others can come in, and in that SPV you can take 5,000, you can take 10,000. You don't have to wait for those bigger checks.
All right, we're coming to the end here. So I just want to make sure we get in our one last question, which we ask every guest. And that is, what is the worst advice you've ever received?
So the first one is wait until you're ready. Like I said, Apex 3.0 right now. And every time this isn't right, you need to really figure it out until you do it. And I was like, no, I'm going to figure it out while I'm doing it. How else can I be nimble and agile? You know, I'm so lean in that sense. Like, unless I'm not out there, if I'm not putting myself out there and asking the right people, my audience, what they're looking for, how can I pivot? I can't do that behind my desk anticipating what these people want. So that's number one. And I think I really would have delayed every single meaningful leap. And as a consequence, the milestone that we achieved had I followed that advice. So that is one thing. I genuinely feel I got ready by doing it, not by not doing it. The other thing that people tell me is, especially around Apex, is it's impolite to talk about money. Don't talk about money. It's not polite. It's really crass. And I was like, no, it's not. It's genuinely not. There's a difference. And I think the problem that we face in today's world is because there's not enough constructive talk about money. And you say money, yes, it sounds crude. You talk about wealth, it now suddenly sounds so polished. And there's a big, big, big difference over here. You know, you have all these new creators of wealth who oftentimes didn't come from backgrounds where wealth and money were discussed at dinner tables. And they have a very unhealthy relationship with money then. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to deploy it. They don't know how the right people to surround themselves with, to ask the right question, to see who the right people are. And oftentimes within Apex, the members that, you know, have come into new money or about to come into new money, that's what I was saying about soon to be exited founders, oftentimes they don't know how to talk to their kids. It's like, you know what, they've never seen it, but now we're about to get into this. They will see a whole new stratosphere where we would be floating because your friends change, your postcode might change, your schools might change. How do you now communicate with kids? And I think it's so important to talk about money and wealth. That's another thing I feel like is like the worst advice ever that I've gotten, is to not talk about wealth. And I was like, no, actually, I'm going to talk about it and I'm going to make my business out of it.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Tell everyone how they can get in contact if they want to raise money or, join the network, whatever.
Through you. Through you. But, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, I'm always there. We'd love to hear. We'd obviously love more members. It's the heartbeat of our community. And in terms of raising, get in touch with Jennifer, who will, vet those deals for me.
Just come to me, baby. I love
Yes.
it. All right. Thank you so much for coming on today. And to everyone listening to this episode, thank you for tuning in to Taking Care of Lady Business. Until next time, I'm Jennifer Justice. Thanks to MedJet for supporting the Taking Care of Lady Business podcast. When you travel for work or internationally, the real question isn't if something could happen, it's whether you've planned for it. That's why I'm a member of MedJet and have been for years. If your security is threatened or you're hospitalized while traveling, MedJet can get you home and to the hospital you choose, not just the closest one. It's not travel insurance. It's about not leaving critical decisions to chance. If you travel regularly, it's worth having in place. You can learn more at medjet.com. Thanks for tuning in to Taking Care of Lady Business. If this was useful, subscribe and share with a friend. Make sure to check out the show notes for more on my guest and me, Jennifer Justice. Taking Care of Lady Business is a production of Lady Business LLC. See you next time.